Will soy milk cheese? Kinda, but while our initial test came out tangy and salty like cheese, it was missing umami and texture. But what if we beefed it up? I doctored this soy milk to be more like whole dairy milk, but how will it work out in reality? Hello friends and not yet friends, welcome back to Will It Cheese on Mary's Test Kitchen, the series where I'm applying dairy culturing traditions to anything other than mammal milk. Everything vegan friendly, that is. We've cultured peanuts, making gooey melts, perfect for sandwiches, tangy cream, ready for your next bagel, and sharp, nutty, complex aged blocks, worthy of your next cheese board. Made pistachio cheeses, discovering that using the strained milk versus whole seed puree changes the flavors that evolve during fermentation. Revealed interesting flavors from unfurling the proteins in sesame milk and then letting them clump back together. After brining, very similar to bocconcini, extremely snackable. And interrupted the traditional soy tofu making process with probiotics and thyme, leading to tangy, bamboo and green tea-like flavors in a very firm block of protein-rich survival food. It was only aged a few days, and the rest is in the fridge to continue the process, so the flavors and textures may change. But I can't wait for weeks or months before trying another variation, can you? So what if we make our soy milk closer to dairy in macros? How will the flavor change, the texture, and will it be worth it? I'm using the same beans from the last episode and applying the same method for the most part, but using 10% more. Tell you why in a moment. Soak them in crisp, clean, mountain-fed Calgary tap water. Overnight they're plumped up. And I'm gonna blend them up, but first, I'm gonna add a darling from the vegan cheese-making world, cashews. Their natural composition of mild buttery flavor, fat, protein, and carbs make them super versatile in vegan cheesemaking. A little math suggests that adding about 80 grams of cashews, or what I have left in this bag, will increase the fat and sugar content in naturally lean soy milk closer to dairy milk's composition, plus one other ingredient that I'll add later. Hopefully, they'll provide the probiotics with more material to create those familiar cheesy flavors with age. I'm boiling them first to soften them up. Even so, I'm not quite sure this is a necessary step. You'll see why later. Meanwhile, I'll get the soybeans drained and sorted. 1,147 grams of hydrated soybeans from 500 dry. But let's pick out any bad beans, like this discolored one. Anything that looks like out of the ordinary, the wrong color, or the wrong shape. With high-quality beans, we're not going to find very many. Now to milk. I'll just add the plumped-up cashews directly and soybeans to fill about halfway in my blender jar. Then more delicious tap water. About double our ingredients volume, give or take, it's not too important. What is important is getting that lid on tight before we blend it. This time, I'm just going for 25 seconds rather than the usual 30. I'm hoping that the larger particles will be easier to strain even if we get a little less protein extraction, and that's why I'm using a little more material than last time. Though with the cashews in there, they're much softer than soybeans. So, I guess you could say that logic wasn't logicking this day. It'll be fine though, don't worry. I'll repeat with the rest. And now to separate the fibrous pulp from the milk. Eight lucky minutes later, we have just under 2.5 liters of raw soy cashew milk, about 2/3 of a gallon. The soy in it requires that we cook the milk thoroughly. But because this pot is so full, I'm skimming off the foam so we can see exactly what's happening on the surface during cooking. But before I get the heat on, I'll add our remaining ingredient to increase the sugar content, corn syrup. Partly because I've had the bottle for like 10 years and I want to use it up, and partly because the sugar in milk is lactose not available from plants, but the glucose and fructose in this corn syrup may be close enough. Plus, the flavor is pretty neutral. 30 grams going in. I also coated the bowl in olive oil so the syrup would release easily. In theory. Anyways, there's less than a gram of olive oil going in. And finally, with my flat-edged spatula and laser thermometer at the ready, it's time to turn the heat to high. I'll stir constantly to prevent the soy milk from sticking and burning at the bottom of the pot, though a little stickage is inevitable. And as we approach the boil, it's really time to pay attention. Soy milk loves to boil over and make a huge sticky mess. As this simmers, the water is evaporating, plus the starch in the cashews is gelling, making this thicker. And it's getting even more concentrated than before. So if we wanted the macros to really mirror dairy, we would have to add it back. And even more water. In fact, there are many ways to make soy milk have macros more like dairy. I could add refined coconut oil that has a neutral flavor and more saturated fat, if we wanted to get into the nitty-gritties of the types of fat in dairy milk. And perhaps I wouldn't add cashews at all because it has starch, and that's a totally different thing not found in dairy. But to be honest, I'm not trying to make dairy out of plants right now. I'm trying to make plant cheese and feeding the lactobacillus bacteria that we'll add later with the food that it likes in hopes of coaxing out some cheesy flavors. Anyways, about 15-20 minutes later, this soy milk is totally and safely cooked. Let's give it a taste test. It's really thick and creamy, a nice soybean flavor. Not like the grassy kind of beanie, but like the nutty and mild and sweet kind of beanie. There's like the aftertaste of the hint of cashews. It's just a little tiny teensy bit sweeter than you would normally have soy milk. After cooling, looks like we have just about 2 liters. So we lost 500 milliliters during the cook, which is fine. I'm just going to double check the temperature now. 104 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 39 degrees Celsius. And I'm going to add our probiotics. This time I'm going to be using some leftover cashew yogurt I made quite a while ago. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm just going to taste it to be sure. Wow, that's extremely tangy cashew yogurt. It's going to work perfect. So I'm going to put, I don't know, maybe I'll just put the whole thing in. So let's go in. That's that nice thick cashew yogurt. 1 tablespoon. 2 tablespoons. I think we have about 3 tablespoons, just over 3 tablespoons here. Might as well use the whole thing. Stir it in. I can see a little bit of texture in there, but I think that's okay. Right. I need this pot for cooking, so I'm going to transfer this to a different container. And now for the riskiest part of this operation. I really should get a funnel. Anyways. Next, let's incubate. This time I'm using my regular household electric oven with just the oven light on and the door closed. But every hour or so, I check to see the temperature in there is not getting too warm. When it does, I turn the light off and let it cool for an hour or two before switching it back on. I'm aiming for 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 38 degrees Celsius for the probiotics to be super comfy, so they'll eat well and produce the lactic acid that makes foods like yogurt and sauerkraut sour. This sourness helps to preserve the milk, preventing unwanted bacteria and fungi from taking hold and spoiling the milk in a non-tasty direction. But I don't want it too sour this time. It's just about 8 o'clock. Temperature here is 36 degrees Celsius. It's a little bit on the cooler side. It's okay. The jars feel warm to the touch. Slightly warm. So let's do a little taste test. Oh, hey, it's already thick. Ooh, promising. Taste test. Very mild. Doesn't have as strong as a beanie flavor as the previous soy yogurt batch. It's got it's a little bit sweeter, but not to say it's sweet. It's very, very mild. And the tang is extremely mild. It's just at the very end of the finish there. The texture is a little clumpy. It's not like completely smooth. It reminds me of like a cross between cottage cheese and yogurt. I think that the level of fermentation is good here. I'm going to put this in the fridge. The next morning, these have been in the fridge about 14 hours, just waiting for it to be bright enough to film in here. Meanwhile, I've set up my cleaned and steamed equipment. Our jars of cashew corn syrup soy yogurt look the same as yesterday. Coagulated solid from the lactic acid, which is a different sort of coagulation from last time when we used calcium sulfate to trigger the soy proteins to clump together, leaving behind clear yellowish whey. If you recall, I added the probiotics after coagulation that time. Even though that pure soy milk had very little sugar and carbs, it was able to get very sour after 48 hours of incubation. A little more sour than I want today, hence our shorter incubation period this time. I'm going in for the tiniest taste test because my OAS, aka oral allergy syndrome, is acting up again. Yay, spring is here! And soy is one of my big triggers since my real allergy is to birch. Yup, the tree. Let's find out that and how does it taste? It's sour and bright, but not overly mouth-puckeringly sour. And it tastes like a very mild, fresh, delicious homemade tofu. If you haven't had homemade, you haven't tasted this flavor. The store-bought stuff usually has a much more prominent beany flavor, and this does not have that. The texture is a bit clumpy, but not grainy or gritty. So while it's not as smooth as your typical yogurt, I think we could blend it, and I bet it would come out really great. But this isn't an episode of Will It Yogurt, my long-abandoned series after that one pumpkin seed fiasco. Let's drain these curds. By the way, so far I haven't reacted, so either my OAS has calmed down overnight, unlikely, or the protein structure has really changed enough not to trigger me. I find it so amusing that this annoying health condition is actually giving us an indication of what's happening to the plant protein as it ferments. Anyways, I've added a little salt, and it's really giving cottage cheese now. But tangier, so it's reminding me of my pre-vegan favorite cottage cheese flavor, pineapple. I know, some of you could not be more repulsed, but I'd add some pineapple jam and snack the hell out of this. But we cannot. I'm after something more complex. Look at how the whey is releasing. Oh, I'm surprised to see that much actually already. So I'm going to leave this sitting for, I don't know, let's say an hour. But protected from the indoor elements. It's been about 20 minutes, I'd say. I don't actually know. But I want to flip the curds so that it can release more whey. Oh no, I am making a mess. Rearranging the curds in there a little bit. So hoping that the whey will release more. So I'm just gonna lift this up. I feel like it could possibly fit into a press right now. Today, for the first time on this channel, I'm going to try pressing in my stainless steel tofu press. Normally, you wouldn't, because the metal could react to the acidic ingredients. But I don't care. I'm going to try it anyways. This has been previously sterilized by boiling in water. Oh, maybe I spoke too soon. It fits, you guys. Haha, perfect. I feel like if I try like this, I'm just going to injure myself. Why did I decide to use this press? I'm so mad at myself. Annoying. I could just go in there and take out some of the curds and make it easier on myself. As if me make things easier for myself? Whose channel do you think this is? I've pretty much got my entire upper body weight on this. And let me tell you, it feels pretty undignified. But we're pretty close. We're very close to the level I need to slip in the pressure plate. Oh, yes. Yes. Success. Yep, so anyways. Now that was a bit of effort. I mean, it's just patience, really. And then we can just turn this guy to add pressure if needed. Later, I put this in the fridge and tightened the screw a few times over the next 8 hours to add pressure as the curds pressed down. The next day, I could press this more. I only twisted it once yesterday. But let's just open it up and see. It's bouncy, so it's not completely... I feel like we could definitely make this firmer. Nope, gotta keep it moving. Oop. Well, that's prime for a taste test. All right. Let's give it a taste test right away. Tastes like fresh, lemony tofu. It's tangier than the curds were yesterday. And there's a little bit of creaminess. Not bad. If you wanted to use this as ricotta, I think you could. Last time, the salt sprinkled tofu came out better. So that's what I'm gonna do this time. But first, I'm gonna weigh this block. 956. Let's say this paper weighs 1 gram. 954. Don't want to oversalt this, so what I'm going to do is measure out 1% in salt. That's what's up. And then use that to sprinkle on top, and then we'll see. 1 to 2%. I'm thinking 15 grams. Ugh, would that even be enough? I don't know. We'll see. Ooh, that's too much. You know what? I'm going to start with 15. Start with 15, and then if we need more, then I'll think about it. Because right now, I really don't want to oversalt. There are other ways to prevent unwanted mold and fungi, which we shall explore. But first, I got to have them delivered to my address in Canada and have it pass customs and all that stuff. I've basically used up all the salt. Now I'm just going to use the remaining to get into any crevices that I see. What I'm hoping is that the fat in the cashews is going to improve the texture of this once it's aged. Ooh, we have crumbles coming off. I do wish that I had pressed this more yesterday, like increased the pressure, but my cat is sick, so I didn't really pay attention to that. And I almost forgot our whey taste tests. So I'm gonna taste both the whey from yesterday that we had poured off, and then the whey that pressed out of the block overnight in the fridge. Bright and cheery. It's like sour, but not funky. It's like, have you had quinoa Rejuvilac? It's bright and lemony, not funky and cheesy yet. This one was from the first press. Let's see if it's different. It is different, it's more fruity. They're from the exact same batch, but taken out of the tofu or taken out from the curds at different times, and they taste distinctly different from each other. It just goes to show every little change affects something. So I'm just gonna pour that in. But yeah, it's fruity, it's nice. I feel like we can make this into a fruity probiotic drink. Mix in some berries, mix in some pineapples. That could be pretty delicious and refreshing in the summer, which it's not right now. It's still winter. Finally, the bamboo mat is ready. Like in our previous episodes, I'm gonna let the cheese dry in the dehydrator at a low temperature. 98 degrees Fahrenheit or 37 degrees Celsius, about body temperature. We're going to release more whey so the cheese becomes more solid. Concurrently, the lactic acid bacteria is still working and changing the flavor. So right now, it tastes like lemony tofu, but tomorrow, who knows? Future Mary, that's who. And I'm about to let you in on it, because 24 hours later... This thing is cracked. Every few hours, I turned it counterclockwise, and then I have flipped it a few times already. And you can see that it's super cracked, showing us a few lessons. It's pretty evenly yellowed, with some parts being darker, and I'm assuming they are drier. Yeah, upon touch, they are the drier sections. So much cracking. We really should have pressed it more, removed more whey, or maybe, I don't know. On this side, you can see in the crevices, it's lighter yellow. It's obviously more moist. I want to dry it until it's more of an even tan color, and that should allow it to age without surface mold forming. I'm going to cut it in half and get a bit of a taste test to see where we're at. The scent is a little bit like rice and dried apricots. It's a little bit sweet. It's got like a fruity apricot, a little bit tangy, fermented scent to it. Yeah, let's get into it. Almost could just break it in half, but I want to try slicing it. Oh yeah, it still looks like fresh tofu on the inside. It looks a lot like the smoked tofus you can buy in stores. Oh, it's bouncy. This is the feeling of, yeah, firm tofu. I'm gonna get a slice. One of these inside pieces. It's basically like just that nice off-white color. It tastes like sour tofu with a little bit of apricot. It's mouth-watering, and there's already a little hint of savoriness. Already this is way different from our previous soy cheese. The flavor is very bright, but not overly so. Let's get a bit of the rind. It's more chewy and satisfying in that way. It's definitely a little bit salty, but it's not too salty. It's not recognizably cheese, but it's interesting that we did get a different flavor out of this. Remember, last time our tofu cheese tasted like almost nothing. Bamboo and green tea with some tanginess. I'm gonna salt the cut sides. Admire it from different angles, then arrange it on the same bamboo mat and back into the dehydrator for another 24 hours. The timer just went off, so it's been another 24 hours for a total of 48 hours in the dehydrator. This is what it looks like. I can feel it's still a little squishy in the middle, but the exterior is nicely dried even down into the crevices, so I think it's safe to dry naturally. 3 days later, it's been sitting in here to protect it from the indoor elements like dust and cat hair, but just room temperature and no fan. I can feel it's more dry, darker where it's driest, firmer too. As it's dried, the cracks have tightened up. There's less space in there. And the aroma is still apricot-y, but not as sweet and not as strong as before. Almost a little wheaty as well. There's quite a bit of resistance to my knife. And look at that rind, it's beautiful. Let's get a slice. Check out that texture. I find it so interesting how it breaks with those jagged edges. But how does it taste? Rind first. It's tangy and fruity. Is that the difference from the cashews or the corn syrup? Or because I used a cashew yogurt to culture it? That cashew yogurt was made with the same probiotics that I've been using all along lately, by the way. We have changed so many variables for this video, but I can't say I regret a thing, because I'm getting apricots and mandarin flavors while still being tangy, not too salty, and there's a background of developing umami. The texture of the rind is chewy but not too tough. It's almost waxy, like the texture that you get when you leave cheddar cheese in the fridge too long and you don't cover it and it dries out. Then the inside part. My friends, while not a typical cheese texture or flavor, I find this so interesting and snackable that I would already deem this vegan cheese board ready. But it's got to go into the fridge to age a bit longer because I am so curious. What will cold and time do? You'll find out in a bit. But first, updates from last month's tofu cheese. As a refresher, remember, that tofu cheese was made from 100% soybeans. I split it into 2 halves to test 2 different salting methods, the salt crust and the salt brine. I feel they were dry enough going in, and the bamboo mat and having this not fit tightly and in the fridge with so much airflow was a bit overkill. Because now they are hard, like, I don't even know if I can cut through that. But we'll try. Wow, that's tough. Tougher still. Both were tough. On the inside, wow, they are very firm. Let me brush away that salt. I'm going to cut the rinds off of these so that we can get some proper taste tests. I'm using similar effort to get the rinds off. That just crumbled off. I'm going to take a tiny piece of each rind so we can do a taste test afterwards. I feel like it's going to be way too salty, but let's do it anyways. All right, the feel of them. There is a little bit more of moisture to the touch, and it isn't like a rock hard. There is a little bit of give, but not a lot. What can I compare it to? Parmesan, probably. Yeah. All right, let's get a taste. Thin slice. Oh my gosh. At first, the flavor is kind of almost waxy, and and the texture is giving cheese, like one of those waxier, harder cheeses like the edge piece from Gruyere, like closer to the rind. But the taste is bamboo, green tea, you can taste a hint of tofu. It's sour, it's tangy. It's not overly salty. There's a bend to it. Like, look at that bend. Look at the bend. Wait. A lot more flavor than I expected. It makes me feel like I'm in the countryside gathering soybeans in my straw baskets. Like in the cool fall time with like that mountain misty air in the forest. Like it's so interesting. All right, let's go for this one. This one was the salt brined version. Okay, this one is more brittle. Wow, it is way more brittle. Even the thinner part. Okay, let's give it a taste test. It's a lot more salty. It's a lot more tofu. The tang doesn't hit for a little while until you get really chewing on it. It's kind of orangey, kind of lemony, but it's more salty, and I don't like that. It's overly salted. But this one's perfectly salted. I think this is a great starting place to determine what flavors come from soybean. That's just only 1 week in the fridge, I think, cold aging. I think we're going to just put it into a regular sealed container. Maybe I'll leave these big pieces as is. And then these pieces, I'm going to cut off the rinds and then just age them in the fridge in a container and then see how that goes. Check on it in like a month. Finally, the taste test we've all been waiting for this episode. This went into the fridge on March 9th, and it's the 14th now. As you can see from these empty check boxes, I didn't actually check them. 2 solid blocks. Yeah, there's moisture coming off the surface. I'm getting a yeasty, weedy kind of smell from it. It no longer smells like apricots to me. Let's cut into it. And it's a smooth cut. I feel like the moisture has kind of equalized. I'm pressing pretty hard on it. It's pretty solid, like feels like a skateboard bushing. It's feeling more flexible. Let's get a piece from the rind first. Chewy, tangy, lemony, lemon essential oil kind of lemony on the rind. It's not too salty. It's not very distinctly salty at all, actually. So I feel like the seasoning is probably the right amount. Now the interior part, wow, that's different. It's more like currants, like a red currant. Red currant, apricot, orange peel. Unlike the previous cheese, no bamboo, no green tea, nothing like that. It's a completely different flavor, except for the fact that it's also bright and tangy and a little bit citrus. The mouthfeel between the teeth is like a really, really firm, dry tofu. I feel the flavor is not like any tofu that I've ever had or fermented bean curd. But the mouthfeel is like some tofu, like dried tofus that I've had before. Like the specialty stuff that you can't get in regular grocery stores. It's certainly snackable, but oh, instead of cheese, it's more like a salami. Like a really dense, firm, cured meat in that there's an umami there. There's saltiness. It's sour. There's fruity notes. But the mouthfeel, it's more like a cured meat than a cheese, which makes sense. The soybeans is like the meat of the plant-based world. But this is, well, a cheese. I feel that we need to try this again, but with more fat ingredients. I don't know that we need more carbs. I just feel like more fat is needed. Cut a few slices for the thumbnail. Dang, you guys, should we branch off and add herbs and spices to make some real vegan plant-based cured meat? Let me know in the comments below. Anyways, I'm not sure that cold fermentation past a few days is adding very much. There's not that much difference, though probably a much longer period is necessary, like with dairy cheeses. Cheddar takes at least 2 to 3 months. Parmesan takes a year or 2. So I'll check on these occasionally and let you know if anything changes. In the meantime, I'm working on editing the next Will It cheese, featuring black sesame. This one really surprised me. Thank you so much for watching, my friends, especially to the end. You've got stamina. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and subscribe if you haven't already for more plant-based fermentation experiments. Bye for now.